It's 1 o'clock now.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for being here on the late show. We're here up late because we like staying up late and drinking whiskey because that's what we do. We got another great episode of the Distiller's Perspective for you. That's when we talk to a distillery that is either here local to me or that is veteran owned to get their perspective on what's going on from their perspective, see what's going on in their world. Thank you guys all for being here. As you guys know how we do here, we do an interview differently than any other platform out there. I just dropped the link. And so if you want to jump on to join and ask a question, then you are going to be playing the revolving door of questions. Now, I've not briefed Mark on this because that's part of the fun for me. What's up, Mark?
Hey, what's happening?
How much? This is Mark from Old Line. I'm going to let you introduce yourself in just a minute, sir, after I tell you about the revolving door of questions. Like I just said, that's part of the fun for me and not briefing you about this ahead of time. So you got to admit, one of the best things about being in the whiskey industry, the whiskey community, is the people and chatting with the people, the kind of conversations you have with people when they come into your distillery. You can't, it's hard to replicate that. Because you're talking to people that have similar interests and you have a passion about something, and it's a blast. It's why we started this show, Distiller's Perspective. And why do it live if we're not going to include the audience? So we have a high audience participation rate. That's why we're doing it live, or else we may as well have made this interview look pretty and cut it up and had the editors deal with it, right? So the revolving door of questions is I'm going to have an audience member jump on, ask you a question. As soon as that question is answered, I'm kicking them off the screen, because or else we're going to start talking about where they work and what kind of dog they have, and I'm not going there. I want to keep it focused on Old Line and what you have going on from your distiller's perspective over there. And so I dropped the link in the chat, and so anybody that wants to come on and ask a question, if you do, you're going to get thrown into the wheel of names. There's going to be a raffle at the end. I have 3 different bottles of Old Line whiskey here, and you're going to get a sample of each one of them. You're going to get 3 different samples as part of your I don't want to say incentive, but just a gift from me to you for coming on and asking a question. Everybody, yes, please hit the like, and can I please get somebody in the audience to throw a reminder in the chat every 10 minutes or so, reminding us to drink water, because we want to make sure we're taking care of ourselves and drinking more water than we are whiskey. So just like the drill sergeant used to say, drink water. Yeah, so I'm going to be watching the chat, but I'm not going to be calling out a lot of the chat. I'm going to be having a conversation with Mark here. Mark, are you drinking whiskey with me tonight, and have you got some water?
I got some water, and I may be reaching for some whiskey here in a little bit, but I'll definitely be hydrating with you as well. Roger
that. Sounds good. All right, so I'm just going to highlight some comments as I give you the floor. Go ahead, Mark, if you could please give us the brief history. Where are you from, and what are you all about? What have you done? Tell us about what you got going on.
Well, thank you, Mark. Pumped to be here from my house here in Baltimore. So get the midnight. Usually I do these often from the distillery, but tonight with the time, thought, hey, I'll just do it from the living room and join you guys from here. So so Mark McLaughlin, one of the co-founders of Old Line Spirits here in Baltimore, and the quickest way to
on the late show.
The quickest way to put it is, Old Line focuses on American single malt whiskey, as I think many of you might be aware. And me and my business partner, we got into this in a bit of an unusual way. We met, first of all, in the military as buddies. We were Navy guys. We were naval flight officers, so the guy in the plane that didn't have the eyesight to be a pilot, but still wanted to fly. So we ran the weapon system, navigators, radar, that sort of thing, co-pilot. And I did that for about 10 years on active duty. And then from there, I transitioned out into the reserves for a little bit, and then ended up leaving the reserves. Arch, he did 11 years active, 9 reserve, and retired. But did that, got into the civilian world here in the East Coast. And I was an investment banker. Hated it. Arch became an engineer. He liked that pretty well, but wasn't really loving it. And back in 2014, when this whole whiskey boom, this revival was really starting to take hold. We just looked around and said, you know what, life's too short. You know, let's try it. Let's throw our hat in the ring, and we were going to make bourbon. Was our bourbon and rye. Where we took a bit of a detour is that within a few days of quitting my civilian job, I was at a conference in Seattle, actually, the American Distilling Institute in 2014, and met a gentleman out there who had a small distillery local to you guys. Well, I mean, local-ish, from probably about 3 hours or 2 hours from Newmark, but up on Samish Island, Washington, up near Bow, Washington, near the Canadian border. And these two guys were Vietnam vets, one Army, one Navy, and they were looking to sell their business because one of them was terminally ill, unfortunately. So yada, yada, yada. We ended up going out there, you know, flying out, checking out, kicking the tires, loving the whiskey, loving the product, loving the people, and ended up moving out there and apprenticing and learning how to make the whiskey. So they were making this wonderful American single malt whiskey years ahead of really the category, and they were one of the first ones to do it, and they were just doing it because they were making whiskey they liked. So at any rate, that's the long and short of it there. I'm sure there'll be more to cover, but that's how we got started and what we do.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for sharing that part. I do have a bunch of questions written down, but I don't want to burn them for the audience. There's a lot that you said that I want to dig into a little bit more, but I want to give audience members a chance to do that. What I would like to rewind a little bit and go back to your days in the Navy. Did you how many years did you say you were active duty in the Navy?
Just under 10.
Okay, and for the whole 10 years, were you in Washington State?
No, so I was flight school down in Pensacola, Florida for 2. And then the remainder, actually, which is rare, as you know very well in the military, to kind of homestead. The remaining 8, I was stationed out of Whidbey Island, Washington.
Okay.
So I would, deploy from there, but I did multiple tours. So all happened to be from there. So that was rare but lucky.
Okay, and you said that you were you and Arch met when you were pilots, and you talked about the guy with not as good at eyesight, but he still wanted to fly. So were both of you like co-pilots, or?
Correct. Yeah, both were. Yeah, in the Navy they call it naval flight officer, but yeah, exactly. We were co-pilots, navigators, weapon systems operator, that sort of thing.
Okay, and you guys both had that same role, just in different planes.
Same role in flying the same type of plane. Just he was a couple of years older than me, so we were in the same community of aircraft, and then so we knew who each other were. And then when we got off active duty, we both ended up in the reserves out of Andrews Air Force Base. There's a small Navy post there, and DC, near DC, and that's where we became buddies, where we were actually in the same unit.
Oh, so it's one of those small world situations where you guys were stationed together here, then all of a sudden, years later, you guys are stationed together again.
Exactly, and to make it weirder, we ended up both living in the same neighborhood in Baltimore, which we still do. Maybe 100 feet away from each other. So it's can't get away from each other, whether we like it or not.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah,
I see that kind of stuff all the time in the military, and I hear stories like that where people run into each other later, or like when you start working with somebody, you find out that you had a mutual coworker from before or something, because it is really a small world, a small community, and especially with specific jobs in the military, those worlds get even smaller.
Totally. Yeah, there's not that many. Well, the Prowler's gone now. It's been replaced by a variant of the F-18 they call it a Growler. But that community is not that big, right? It's so, yeah, to your point, it's very small, tight knit, as I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with communities like that. And to that point, actually, a buddy of mine, not to get off topic, but had he started a nonprofit foundation called KFG Project. Keep fucking going. Keep effing going. It's the short version is it's about helping military cancer patients as they go through treatment and whatnot, whether Walter Reed or wherever. And but he had his kickoff event at Saturday at the Distillery here in Baltimore. And I just had guys I hadn't seen in years coming in that I just did not expect to see. And it was like I saw him yesterday. It was just the feeling. It was amazing.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So I got a question from Josh asking what type of aircraft.
Yeah, so the plane was called it's an EA-6B Prowler. If you Google it, you'll see it's kind of a ugly plane. Ugly but lovable. I guess I'll put it that way. It's It's a variant of the A6 intruder, if anybody's familiar with that from the Vietnam era and Gulf War era. So it's actually a 4-seat jet. There's 2 guys side by side in the front, and 2 guys side by side in the back. And what we focused on was electronic attack. So we under the wings, there'd be these jamming pods that were designed to jam radar. We had a communications jammer, and we carried a missile called a HARM, which is a high-speed anti-radiation missile, and that was designed to target radar. So our job was to fly in with the strike group, and basically try to do our best to dismantle and confuse the air defense systems to allow all the aircraft to get in and out of the targets safely.
Okay. Before I get into the next thing, I want to remind everybody out there, the link is in the chat. If you want to join on, ask a question, you'll get entered the raffle to win prizes at the end of the live stream. Mark, I have 3 bottles from you. I've got the Navy Strength.
Love it.
I've got the Sherry Cask Finish.
Nice.
And I've got the 21090 Case 1 Rum Pick.
Love it. Love those guys.
Dude, they're hilarious. That's how I first heard about you guys. It was about a year ago. I was watching you and you do an interview on their show, and that's how I found out about them. Then after that, I had tons of people messaging me and suggesting that with your guys' Navy backgrounds, it gets you here, so we can talk about that a little bit more.
I love it.
And then get into the spirits. I have never had a rum finished in port before, so I'm really excited. And I actually saved this so I could do a fresh crack with you tonight. So I haven't even opened that one yet. The only one I have opened so far is the Navy Strength. So I'm going to pour myself a glass of that before we go much further. And appreciate all you guys in chat. But like I said, jump on in the back to if you want to ask a question. Smashing the like button. Independent Joe, Marine veterans here in the house. Appreciate you being here. Bill
Joe.
Reynolds, Vietnam vets here. Appreciate you being here, Bill. And before we start getting into people's questions and stuff like that, I wanted to stick with the military for another minute. You said that that's where you did tours out of and whatnot. Can you let me know where you went, how many times that you deployed in that role as the co-pilot?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And if I call it what you will, it's all the same. So when I was in Whidbey, so I was there from 04 to 10. So I was out there for 6 of my, oh shit, doesn't sound right. I was in for 10. Well, yeah, I guess early 04 to late 10. So yeah, so 7 or 8 of my 9 or 10 years in, I was there. So the first year I was a student, learning the Prowler. So I'd finished flight school, but I was kind of learning how to operate that plane. The next 4 was when I was kind of in deploying squadron. So I did 05, 06 on the Theodore Roosevelt, which was an East Coast carrier, but even though I was a West Coast squadron. And then so that was out to the Middle East, to the Persian Gulf. And then of that deployment, about 50% of that time was spent flying out of Al Asad Air Base, which is, as many of you know, a large air base in Western Iraq. And then half the time was flying similar missions off the ship. They just kind of had to split up for a couple of reasons. And then we rejoined before we left the Middle East to head back home. So 05, 06 was Iraq. And then I was supposed to go to Afghanistan in 2007, and they ended up shuffling things around. I went to Japan. So that was,
oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. What a win. That was you spent 4 months down in Iwakuni at a Marine base called Marine Corps Station Iwakuni, and flying as part of a Marine Corps Air Wing. And that was just such a cool experience. So, yeah. And then after that, I was, 3 years as an instructor. So I would go out to sea for 3, 4, 5 days at a time. But, shore duty was pretty cool.
Oh, nice. That's crazy how close we came to being in Afghanistan at the same time.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. My first deployment was in 07. But I haven't been to Japan yet. So that would be fun. It sounds like that was a much better tour than in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky to do it, and very grateful. It was, and I didn't even want to. I'd rather go there than I'd rather go most places in Afghanistan. So
no,
it wasn't. I was like dying to go to Japan at the time. It was just not a place that was like if you had asked me before that, hey, if you could take a trip to the Med or whatever, or go to Japan, I'd be like 10 times out of 10, yeah, I'll go to Europe. And the minute I set foot there, I loved it. It's such a cool place.
Okay. I almost took a sip without cheersing you. Cheers. I'm going to get into this American Single Malt, Navy Strength, 114 proof. Let's go.
And while you're sipping that, that's I often tell people that's of our products that we do, the Navy Strength that you're sipping right now is kind of the one. And if I had to pick one for the Desert Island of Old Line's products, for me, that's it. I love what we do in general, but the Navy Strength just stands out as special to me.
I like the mouth coat. Up front, it has I don't know how to say it without giving the wrong impression that it's somewhere in between an Irish and a Scotch. And the reason why I say that is up front, you get a lot of the apples and pears, the light, nice fruit notes that you get in a lot of American single malts. And then the back of the palate gets much darker, richer, more viscous, and heavier, like how some older Scotches do. But it doesn't have the sharpness of a Scotch. Like the Scotches are not as easy to drink, in my opinion. I'm a bourbon guy, and so I find a lot of Scotches to be harder to drink. Like that's a man's drink right there, because it's not easy to drink for most people a lot. And so I think this is a lot easier to drink than a Scotch, but a better mouthfeel and nicer to drink than most Irish.
I appreciate the mouthfeel, like we're very proud of that. And there's that could be a whole discussion on mouthfeel. I think I'm sure for on any whiskey show, because it's I don't say elusive, but it's certainly when you nail it, I think you nail it. And I think that we're lucky that I think we have a great mouthfeel. And then, but one of the things that we have kind of built the company around is trying to make a single malt whiskey for an American, bourbon drinker's palate. So we're certainly not trying to be a bourbon as much as, I'm like you, I set out to make bourbon, right? And I love bourbon. I love rye. As an American whiskey consumer, that's just, that's the holy grail. But we wanted to do something different in that we wanted to, again, take that single malt concept, in that a lot of bourbon drinkers, not all, but a lot, find that they haven't found that single malt whiskey that they really respond to, right? And
that's one of the questions I've got written down that I didn't want to burn for an audience member. We're definitely going to get in that a little bit more.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, TroyMan is backstage. TroyMan, are you cameraless in Seattle? What's going on?
Oh, that's a great question, because the camera's on. Oh, I know why, because I'm an idiot. Hold on one second. There it goes.
TroyMan's in the house. Good to see you, TroyMan.
TroyMan,
I am putting you on the wheel of names, and right now you have very, very freaking good odds.
The first one.
I tell you what, first up to bat. Let's knock it out of the park. Thanks for being here, Troy.
Yeah, Mark, nice to meet you.
Likewise, Troy.
I went to Western Washington University, so I was right up there by Bellingham, and
Bellingham, I love it.
Yeah, I heard your planes every once in a while. Question for you about your double oak series. I see there's 10 of them. I'm actually kind of amazed by that. There's two I'm really going back and forth on. And well, let me first ask about the oak before I ask which one I should just throw in my cart in order. So you get barrels from like the barrel brokers that are out there. They have, endless supplies. Have you ever found a barrel that just did not work with your flavor profile?
It's a great question, and I'll try not to. I have a tendency to go long, so I'll try not to, because there's a lot to talk about here. But thank you for the question, Troy. First off, I'll say
go ahead, Mark. Like
just rock with it. Okay,
we are nerds. We're here late drinking whiskey on purpose.
Yep. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, thank you for the question. So a couple of things. One, before I even get into that, we use the term double oak in a way. Actually, it wasn't the first choice of terms, because we originally called this series just like our old line, American Single Malt Oloroso Sherry finish or Madeira finish. We use the term finish, right? And as you guys are well aware, the federal government has a very heavy hand on what the whole industry, and in particular, one of the things is what we can say on a label. And for reasons that we will never understand, somebody somewhere at the TTB, the Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, once told us, after we've done this a million times, said, "Oh, you can't use the word finish on an American single malt whiskey." Well, that's crazy, because at the time they said this, like, we're not even really a category. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, what?
But once you get a no, making it a yes is really hard. So we just said, okay, well, we use the term double oak, which, as a whiskey drinker, to me, that typically connotes, fresh oak, virgin oak, twice in a row. So,
right.
Woodford's a great example, Woodford double oak. And but we found that was the only term that we could come up with that was close to conveying what we were trying to do. So that's kind of where the term came from. And now I don't even think about it anymore. It's just what we call it. But that's how it got there. But and the reason we have so many is when Arch and I set out, to start into this kind of barrel finishing process, it seemed like, and I think it was true, it was a kind of a lower risk way to, I don't know if innovate strong, to experiment, right? It's if you take high quality whiskey that's mature and you put it into a quality finishing barrel, you're probably not going to screw it up too bad, right? You could, but you're kind of mitigating that a bit. So we decided that we were going to kind of open up our aperture and do a bunch of different ones. And then we were going to take the first couple of years as these things finished and became ready, and figure out which ones we liked the best, and also which ones were commercially viable. And sometimes those things aligned, sometimes those things didn't. So what you see all in there on the website, many of them are not available. It'll say which ones are available, to order. Yeah. A lot of them aren't, because they were something we did and we haven't decided necessarily not to do it again. So we kind of leave it on the website just so it's like, it's been done and it might come back. But so that's how we did this. So we've the ones we figured out that are kind of going to be always there are going to be the sherry finish. That's actually, we're trying to make that something that's always available. It used to be a limited release, and if we can keep it in stock, that's going to always be there. Our port finish in some way, shape, or form will always be there, and Madeira most likely. The ones that are going to be, to your question, did any not work? It's kind of the eye of the beholder. I'll speak from my perspective on things that resonated with me or didn't. That are Naranja or VDN, Vino de Naranja, the orange wine. Those haven't been my favorite things we've done, and but we had to sell a couple of barrels, and we had groups pick them really quickly. Like, hey man, we love this. So we had whiskey groups that really liked them. But to me, there was just maybe it was just particular barrels we got, but there was just a slight, almost like a pithy bitterness to it that it stuck out to me as not being my favorite. If we thought they weren't good, we would never offer them. Like, okay, we know these are barrels we think they're quality. They're just not. They weren't my cup of tea. That's something that I wouldn't leap to do again. But maybe I'm a knucklehead because people bought them pretty quickly. So maybe we should. And in the terms of ones that I didn't even want to try, that I ended up loving, Sauterne. For those of you who may not be familiar, it's a sweet kind of white French dessert wine. Yeah. And Arch, my business partner, will he'll order the barrels. So he'll be like, "Hey man, here's the list we got from the broker. Anyone here jump out at you?" And I remember being like, "Sauterne, nope. It just doesn't sound good to me." And all of a sudden, 2 months later, a bunch of Sauterne barrels show up. I'm like, well, all right, I guess Arch overrode me on this one. So, and I ended up loving them. They were just so good. There was just this kind of like fresh, vibrant kind of melon character that was just beautiful. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but that's
absolutely. Yeah. So my last question is, I've got 2 in my cart right now, and I'm only going to pick one. If gun against your head, what would you pick, Stout or Madeira?
What I would pick
is really calling me, but Madeira is my favorite.
Madeira, for me, it would be the Madeira. The Madeira, to me, the way when it comes, the expression that we have, the way it kind of comes together, to me is oddly enough tastes like maple bacon.
Okay.
And I don't know why that is, but it's like it tastes way more like maple to me. It's not a bomb or anything, but way more like maple to me than when we did a maple finish. It was something about it. And I just love it. Now the Stout is fantastic. It's like heavy on the cocoa. So not only was it finished in a chocolate volcano stout barrel. But as the cocoa character in our whiskey is part of our core flavor profile. It's part of one of the malts we use. It's called a C120 malt, crystal malt, and that actually has a really heavy cocoa character. So if you're looking for a chocolate bomb or a chocolate cocoa layer on there, that's going to be your stout. Okay. If you want something more fruity, almost slightly smoky in a weird way, like bacony, then go with the Madeira. So that's the best I can offer you.
I want both. That's the problem. All right, maybe I'll order both. I don't know. All right, well, that's awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Hey, TroyMan.
Thank you, Troy.
Yeah,
TroyMan, you are on the wheel. Greatly appreciate you. You're a good friend, and I hope you win something.
Well, I'm going to order on some anyway, so I'll try them one way or another.
Hey, flip that coin, man, because both of those sound delicious to me.
That's true. All right.
Is there any difference in the mouth coat, like the viscosity between those two? Would that tip you, TroyMan?
Not really, because I like fruity whiskeys and I like chocolatey whiskeys. So
okay. All right. Well,
yeah.
All right, TroyMan, I'm kicking you off. All right. So no, I want to hear what you were gonna say, Mark. And I know Troy's still there listening. I can still see him.
Oh, the viscosity.
Yeah.
I think the Madeira would probably have a bit more of a coat to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. If I had to look at them side by side, but yeah, that'd be my opinion.
Okay. I've only had Obtainium finished in a stout barrel, and wow, that was chocolate cake. It was amazing.
Yeah, and Westward does I don't know if they do it as a release or if I just had some single barrels theirs that have done stout finish, but there's been some. Actually, I think 21090 may have turned me on to one of those, and it was
they would
this Big Vic.
Yeah, Vic.
Sorry, I just saw Vic pop on there.
Yeah, Vic's a friend. We've been drinking together for like 3 years now.
Nice.
One of my favorites last year was Old Line CX. What's up, Gandy Road? Good to see you, buddy. I'm gonna leave it right there, and let's get to Will from Charred and Twisted real quick. What's up, Will?
Hey, Mark and Mark. Good to see you guys.
Hey, Will.
I'm enjoying learning. Oh, there's Stacy is there as well. Enjoying learning, and you're going to get a lot of probably technical questions, definitely from Mark, and then also this audience that is very smart and intelligent when it comes to whiskey. So I'm just going to ask you kind of an easy question, I think.
Ooh, softball.
Yeah, softball. There we go. We like to make cocktails and do that sort of thing, and I'm wondering, what is your favorite cocktail with your spirit? Like the spirit and the drink. And that's
Got it.
The question. Got
it. Thanks, Will. I'm gonna give you two, if you don't mind. So one of them is just so simple, but I gotta say it. It's just an old line old fashioned. I mean, like I know an old fashioned is not exciting. It's kind of been done so many times, but one of the things I love about it is that because as an American single malt, you guys are all educated whiskey consumers, but I mean, much more so than the average person, right? So when I think about like exposing people who haven't tried an American single malt to maybe they think single malt equals Islay Scotch and Islay Scotch equals smoky. And like, there's that kind of mental connection that we're trying to, I won't say overcome, but kind of overcome, right? Like when they see single malt on a bottle, not to always assume that there's gonna be all this whole flavor profile. So an old line old fashioned, I think, helps us in that if it's on like a restaurant menu, for example, if you walk in there and you're average Joe and you see a cocktail menu and you say, American single malt, but it's an old fashioned, I know what that tastes like. All right, I'll try one, right? So we like the accessibility of that. And it delivers an old fashioned in just a very, very different way. It's got a lot of baking spice and the cocoa and all. So we love that. And in particular, there's one that we kind of colloquially call at the distillery the Mark Old Fashioned, just because, like many of you, I like higher proof stuff. So we have our flagship 95 proof and our Navy Strength are two of the very common whiskeys we use at the bar. And so the Mark Old Fashioned is the Navy Strength. And but other than that, it's just 2 ounces of Navy Strength Angostura bitters, a 1/4 ounce of simple syrup, Demerara, if you got it. And then, just with the orange palate, the orange peel with the lemon. But that's the kind of simple one. The one that I think is a little bit more, well, we made it up. It's called a Bull Halsey. And Bull Halsey was a famous World War II admiral, kind of a work hard, play hard guy, like I guess most of those guys were back then. But that is, I forget the exact ratios, but it was and he was known for like loving his pilots. So like, all right, man, can't hate that guy. And so it was, 2 ounces of our 95 proof whiskey. I'll probably get the rest of the ratios a little off, but I can certainly get them to you guys. It's got dry vermouth, not sweet. So unlike a Manhattan is going to have dry vermouth, a 1/4 ounce of Campari, 1/4 ounce of triple sec. And it's just, it's in the range of kind of a Boulevardier, if you're familiar, just a little bit different. And that's one of my favorites too.
And that's called a what again?
We call it a Bull Halsey, Bull, space HALSEY. And I can, what is it? It says 2 ounces of whiskey. I think 1/2 ounce of dry vermouth and a 1/4 ounce of the triple sec and a 1/4 ounce of Campari, and then some not Angostura bitters, but Peychaud's bitters.
Oh, okay,
very nice,
very interesting.
So we're gonna have Mark Seaburn over there and try those 2 cocktails with your whiskey. That sounds amazing. So I haven't
that sounds like a blast.
like that with a single malt. So I'm excited to try that for sure.
Well,
Right, I was just gonna say that I've tried old fashions with lots of different types of bourbon and with rye. I've never tried an old fashioned with an American single malt.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely have to do that, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Stacy.
Continue to learn about your stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Awesome. That was really cool. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to crack open the sherry finished because I haven't tried this yet. And listening to you talk about your different finishes has got me really intrigued because leading into Orlando, Mr. Mom here asked, what finishes does Old Line do? Now, there's... So anybody watching this, I already have in the description of the video. If you click on the video description, you can see I already have their website and their Instagram links in the description. So if you click on that, you will see that they have a ton of different finishes, just like TroyMan mentioned. I think it's actually kind of crazy how many finishes you have on your website. That is a lot of different SKUs. You know what I mean? That's a lot of different bottles to have on your shelf that are different products. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then to that point, the of those, there's a relatively small number that are available. Some of those are kind of museum pieces that may come back in the future. So a lot of those are what we have done over the years. And if it were going to be like discontinued, we'd take it off. But these are okay. We may come back to this one in a couple of years, so we'll kind of leave it on there. But there should be the ones that are available now will be indicated on the website.
Right, but on the website, there's a lot of different ones. I was really surprised how many different bottles I saw because I've talked with a lot of craft distilleries on this show, and most veteran-owned whiskeys. They only have like maybe 2 or 3 different bottles.
Okay.
You guys have a ton of different bottles out there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Josh had a friend who was on the presidential helicopter crew with Reagan. Dude, that's crazy sauce. That's really cool. Introduction to them too. Yep. Sorry, I told the chat I'd try to catch back up with them. The Old Line double oak finishes are amazing. Rum is awesome. American Single Malt aged rum is yum. West Virginia bourbon guy. I was talking to him earlier about you guys. Let's see. Said what's up to everybody. Donald Rance from Canada saying good day, eh? It's good to see you. One of my favorite pours I tried last year was an Old Line cask strength PX sherry. So that's another solid point is not a lot of people will put out the cask strength variant of a finish. Usually they do a finish and then proof it down to where they think it tastes the best or whatever. And so I haven't seen too many of those. I have a single barrel pick rum that's 132 proof. Amazing. What's this one? This is 131.2. I know Vic had one also from you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, his sold out before I could grab one. I grabbed one of the 21090s though.
Yeah, Vic and I were just chatting the other day, actually. Or
nice.
Texting, emailing. Yeah.
Yeah. I love Port Sherry, Madeira, fast. Bourbon Baller, he has a store up here and in Renton. And so I'm hoping that he will come on the screen and ask the question. Let's see if he texted me back. Dude, if you don't want to come on and ask it, then I'll let him answer it on the screen. But I want you to come on so you can get entered into the raffle and be the first, Whiskey Tube live stream that you ever joined and stuff like that. James Morgan from across the pond. Any thoughts on an ex-Islay long-term maturation? Solid. Go ahead. I know James.
So jump. You want to jump into that one?
Yeah.
So we were. It wasn't that long ago. We have a local whiskey club called the Old Line Scotch Club, and for those, I'm sure most of you probably won't know this because you're not from Maryland. Is that Old Line is our state nickname, and it's actually got a really cool story about the Battle of Brooklyn, 17. Anyway, I won't get into that. But the reason I said that is that the Old Line Scotch Club is it happens to be co-named with us. We're not, it's not our club. We're just friends with those guys. But we've got some buddies there that we've gotten to know in the past, 10 years. And several of those guys have been pushing very hard for kind of an Isla finishing.
Yeah.
We have not pulled the trigger on it yet. What we have done in that general realm is that we actually have produced some peated whiskey on our own. We haven't, I think we've done one barrel pick with it with an account, but we've got, I don't know how many, maybe we got 20 barrels of it. That's, slowly aging along. So that is new make peated, pot distilled double pot. And then that's aging in right now. I think everything is in virgin oak number 4 char. So American kind of aging on the Scotch process is what that is, or on the Isla process. So at any rate, we have some peated out there. What we found to date is that the aging process on that seems to be a little more extended in our limited experience with it. So we're just kind of monitoring it as we go. But as far as like an Isla finish, I'm 100% open to it. We just haven't pulled the trigger on it.
Okay. Awesome. I have not had very many whiskeys like bourbons and whatnot, or American whiskeys aged in a Scotch barrel that I've enjoyed. I've had a few experimental ones, but they're a different beast. They have a weird funk to them. Before I bring up Independent Joe, because he's in the background, I just took my first sip of this sherry, and I know that from other podcasts and interviews I've seen you do that there are different sherries and that you guys have done different sherries.
Mm-hmm.
And so which sherry is this one? It's the Double Oak Series Sherry Cask 100 proof.
That one's the Oloroso.
Okay. I was thinking so because usually I prefer Oloroso finish over Pedro Jimenez finish. But holy red fruits, Batman. There's
that one reminds me. One of the descriptions I use that I don't know if this resonates with people, but to me, it's think of like a holiday fruitcake, which I know sometimes fruitcake gets a bad name when but like when you think about all the flavors in there, it's like molasses, maybe some cocoa, brandied cherries, brandied fruits. Like to me, that's like a holiday fruitcake vibe. Which I love.
Yeah, you get tons of the light fruits and the cherries. You get actually on the underside of the tongue some of like the breading. I don't know what's going on with the texture of it, but I am feeling all that. The fruitcake, a good fruitcake with a lot of liquor in it. I'm gonna bring on my good friend Independent Joe. What's up, buddy?
Hey,
Cheers.
Joe.
Cheers. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. I'm digging this sherry finish one, and
Nice.
I'm digging the fact that you're here. I was scared you weren't gonna make it.
Oh yeah. Well, I just got home and my wife's like, "You better hurry up and jump on."
Oh, give your wife a big verbal pat on the back from me. I appreciate her support.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. I only have 2. First one, is kind of an industry question, with concerns with like getting barrels and stuff like that. How do you guys mitigate any I guess pitfalls or anything that might come your way? What are you guys looking at for what's going on in the near future with like pretty big distilleries closing down and stuff like that, and watching them and saying,
Sure.
oh shoot, like where's this headed? Is there any concerns with you guys, or are you guys?
Yeah, I do want to answer that first before the second question.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So no, thanks. Absolutely. I mean, I'd be lying if I told you that we weren't concerned. And one of the differences I think for Old Line, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but it'll make sense, is that as an American single malt whiskey, it's been a tough slog for us. I mean, any business is hard, right? Life's hard. But being an American single malt whiskey producer has been kind of extra hard because, when the whole bourbon boom thing was really coming together, we got a little bit of the tailwind of that. And because people were just interested in whiskey in general, more so than they were in the past. But I mean, man, if not being a bourbon or not being a rye was really hard because that's what people really were just like kind of clamoring for. Yeah. So we've always been kind of fighting tooth and nail just to kind of keep growing that, that every, 20, 25% a year, unlike, some bourbon brands have grew triple digits a year and kind of growing with the boom. Right. So what that's done for us is I think we've been kind of on to the youth, like remember the Oregon Trail. We've been on meager rations for a while. We are a lean company. Right. Yeah. So the industry's in a tough spot right now. And we're certainly watching our cash very, very closely. Yeah. It's kind of always been this way for us. So, it's kind of, I think what the industry's feeling, we've always been feeling, and we've adapted to it. So we're feeling as secure, I think, as any small young company could right now. But to the core of your question, like, you kind of already said as much, like holding that inventory and getting those barrels of whiskey so that you can grow in 4, 5, 8 years. It's tricky, like so much of our money is tied up in barrels, and it's the more you have tied up in barrels, the less you can use for marketing, and it's that balance that's so hard to find. So yeah, it's been challenging. We've had to sell inventory a couple of times, which to our knowledge, it's always gone into a blend, which is great. People can do it what they want, but we don't think there's anybody out there just putting our stuff in the barrel or in a bottle rather. But yeah, we've had to do things like that I'd rather not do, but just to kind of make sure we have the cash in the bank.
Oh, gotcha. Do you is what made you guys go the malt route? What?
So we originally set out to do a bourbon and rye, for all the reasons anybody, we just love those categories. And we stumbled across a couple of gentlemen looking to sell their very, very small distillery out in your neck of the woods, out near Bow, Washington, up in, not too far from Whidbey Island. Yeah. And they were doing this American single malt, not because they had like done this market research and said, oh, single malt's going to be a thing in America. There were these two Vietnam vets that were just like, hey, we want to make whiskey. This whole whiskey thing's kind of going bananas. We want in. And they just started messing around with different, grain bills, and they decided they like old malt whiskey and they liked aging it in virgin oak. So we stumbled across the opportunity from them. And I remember going out there to visit them. First time I went out there, I brought a guy with me who ended up being one of our board members. His name was Richard Wolf. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but a dear friend and a big supporter. And Richard, he was head of operations at Buffalo Trace for a period of years. Like, that guy's a really, really, just really great industry experience. And he and I went out there and we kind of kicked the tires on this thing. Drink water, thank you. And one of the things I said to Richard was like, Richard, like, this is great. The whiskey's great, blah, blah, blah. But I think I want to make bourbon and rye. And he's like, almost shook me by the shoulders. He's like, dude, I get it. I love whiskey and I love bourbon and rye. Right. But this is new. You can get in the ground floor of a new category here. It's like, if I were you and I were a young guy, like I would do this. So that really helped us, from a guy who was just so steeped in bourbon, to say like, hey man, bourbon's still going to be there. This is new. And that really helped us kind of get our brains behind. This is an opportunity to be at the forefront of a category that might be something someday.
So he felt that at the time, he felt that the bourbon and rye, it was kind of oversaturated.
I don't think at that point in time he did, but I think he saw the opportunity from a perspective that was a little bit more, from an industry perspective, more
Yeah,
mature than mine of like, hey, like, yeah, bourbon rye is great and there's still room to grow, but he's like, but this is just like the ground floor, man. It was kind of his approach, I think. And so he was very supportive of us jumping into this, and that really helped us kind of get comfortable with it.
That's very insightful on his part. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, he was a wonderful guy. He unfortunately passed away in November 22, I think, and very rapid pancreatic cancer. It's just a huge, I mean, as a friend, just a huge loss, and
Sorry for
a
your
huge
loss.
loss. But no, thank you. And it just, you know, as a company, obviously, it was a huge loss as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one last question. I'm sorry. Am I taking up too much time?
All right, go. Come on, Joe. Let's get it.
No, I mean,
My dance card's open, Joe.
No, I just since you decided to go that route, and when you were first coming into the industry and you were looking forward to producing bourbon and rye, what were you drinking that made you love bourbon and rye? What were you drinking that was?
That's a really good question. So back in 2014-ish, 2012, 2013, 2014, nothing that would really blow your socks off, I think, or knock your socks off, right? I mean, I think that I'm trying to think of, you know, this feels like ages ago, but I've always loved like Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. You know, it's always been a staple, you know, stuff like that. You know, I had tried like the highest end I'd probably gone, you know, this is back before I really knew the industry at all. So this is back when like everybody was jumping all over Pappy Van Winkle, which is still, you know, like it or not, I think you gotta say it's good whiskey, right? Yeah. Whether it's overpriced or not in the secondary market. But I had snuck a couple of tastes of those and whatnot, and they were fine to me. The old Rip 10, I got one or two releases of that I got to try, and that I still stand by that one as a great pour. But, yeah. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, pretty normal mainstream stuff. I hadn't really gotten that adventurous yet. And since then, jumping in the industry, I've been exposed to so much more. I mean, so many things I get exposed to just from like stuff like this, just talking to people in the industry who like, oh man, you got to try so-and-so. You know, so I was trying to million
whiskeys.
When you
ever go to the events like the RNDC events that they have? Do you guys participate in those?
We do it a lot, like whiskey festivals and stuff.
Yeah,
RNDC in particular, we haven't done one of theirs, but yeah, we do a ton of festivals and things like that. Yeah.
You go sample all the tables?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The rookie move, which I learned the hard way, is doing those things alone, because then you're stuck at the table. Not stuck. I mean, I like being at the table talking, but like, I also want to go around, right? So going with either my business partner or bringing an employee, so that I can go kind of tap dance around the floor is the way to go.
Yeah. Well, all right, hey Joe, I appreciate you coming on. I put you on the wheel to win a sample on the wheel of names after the later on in the interview. But I'm glad that you made it on, and I appreciate you. I will talk to you
Mark.
soon. I'll talk.
Likewise,
to you soon.
Joe.
All right,
see
have
ya.
a great night.
Likewise.
Let's see. Joker, appreciate you reminding us to drink whiskey. And I want to get to William Hall because he's been in the background for a while now. William Hall is in the house from Indiana. What's happening, buddy?
Good evening, gentlemen. I probably have more questions than Joe, but I will actually limit myself to two, unlike Joe. Sorry, Joe. I'm really curious. So I was looking through your website, and the one bottle that just super intrigued me was the Ohana. Can you give a little background on that bottle?
So the Ohana was a really cool one. I'll jump into what it is as a blend, and I believe it was 50-50 of our single malt finished in armagnac barrels and cognac barrels. But as far as why we did it, before I get back into the bottle and what's in it, we met, how did we meet him? I forget exactly how we met him, but we met a guy. His name's Paul Lore. He's a former Marine, and bartender, had nothing to do with rowing, right? But he ended up stumbling across this idea that he decided he wanted to get a team together and row an open boat across the Atlantic to raise money for a couple of causes. One of which was a children's cancer research organization. I'm blanking on the exact name. and the other was Canines for Warriors, which helps train dogs for veterans who are at risk of harming themselves, and working to reduce and ideally end veteran suicide. So they actually, not only do they train the dogs for these vets, but they also often I believe use rescue dogs to do it if they can. So it's kind of like just on every level. It's just really, really cool. So anyway, Paul, we met him after he had rowed this open boat across the Atlantic with like 3 other people. And then he was doing it again to cross the Pacific from Monterey, California to Hawaii. And they were calling this one like Team Ohana, Project Ohana. And they were looking to raise money, and we were looking, it just seemed like such a cool thing. And, our brand is built around this concept of like bold stories, bold spirits. And like, this is, man, you don't get much bolder than, rowing a boat. Yeah. And it's not like, he was this like Olympic rower who's like, oh, I'll get back into the boat. He's just like, oh man, I don't know. I'm a former Marine. It's like he was a Marine, air traffic controller, and then a bartender. And so it had nothing to do with rowing. And he just did this thing, which is amazing. So we did that Ohana bottle to work with him to raise money for that cause. I believe, I think that one's sold out. But that one, unfortunately, won't be coming back just because it was kind of a one-time thing. But it was a 50-50 blend, which we often don't do blends that are 50-50. It doesn't usually work out that way, but this one did. And it was cognac and armagnac, both of which were great finishes. I actually leaned, taken on their own, I leaned a little more towards the cognac finish. I think the majority of people lean towards the armagnac. The armagnac has a little bit more of a oily funk, and I don't mean funk in a bad way. It's just like just is what it is, right? And people went crazy for it. I was a little bit more of a cognac, a little more fruity, a little cleaner. But anyway, it was a good blend. Wasn't one of my top 5 things we've done, but certainly was a very good whiskey. And I have some people who still ask about it all the time.
Yeah, no, I'd be very curious for that one. Because I was a Scotch snob for years, and then my wife got me into bourbon and whiskeys, and so I blame her. But that's a whole other story. But no, my second question. So it said that you had a limited release of a peated malt.
So yes, we did so we have our peated malt that we've been making for several years now, and then mostly we're just monitoring it and just seeing like, we just don't know when that peak window for maturity on that is going to be. It's a peated malt aged in the Mid-Atlantic in virgin oak. There's just a lot of unknowns here as far as when this is going to peak, or at the end of the day, if it'll be worth anything, if it'll be any good. Now we think it will be. I mean, as you guys know, you can monitor whiskey as it goes along, and you can be like, okay, this is going to be something. So we feel confident it's going to be good. We just don't know exactly when that prime time maturation is going to be. So we've done a single barrel with a local group around here, Maryland Bourbon Society. So great group. They did a single barrel actually much earlier than we ever intended. We actually, Arch and I brought a sample of that to a holiday party with those guys. Just literally was like, hey, let's bring them something that isn't even close to ready. It's just fun and different. Just see what they think. And we both walked in there. Arch and I are like, all right, no matter what anybody says, we're not selling this barrel tonight. This is not, we don't think it's ready, blah, blah, blah. And then half an hour later, Arch comes over like, oh yeah, man, I think we sold that barrel. I'm like, dude. And for those guys, we would know those guys so well. We would do anything. So like, it wasn't a problem at all. We love those dudes, but it was just kind of like, oh, okay. So that was one of the barrels that I think was released earlier than we ideally would have liked. But so yeah, and we've done, I think in the distillery, we've done some teases out of that as well. But as for when that's going to be readily available, and then I think probably it's going to be more of a blend. Like I think we're probably going to take some of that peated malt and blend it with some non-peated or some finished for a.
Don't do
it'll
that.
Still be.
Don't do that.
But hey, I like direct. Now there's no miscommunication with direct. I like it.
Or at least get me a 200 ml sample of just the straight peated, and then you can do whatever you want.
Oh, we do have, by the way, we had some of that peated that was. Let me think about this. Yeah, so it was in the virgin oak, and then it went into a used Oloroso sherry cask, and it's only been in that sherry cask for like 6 months. We tried that the other day, and I was very pleased with that.
Nice.
Yeah, very, very pleased.
Nice.
So is that
William,
available
I've
now?
got you on the wheel. I hope.
No, it's still in the barrel. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Will.
guys.
Later. All right, I was gonna ask if you want to break, pour a drink, do a little something. BourBen's been in the background for a little bit. What's up, BourBen from the Northeast?
What's up?
How you doing, buddy?
Ben, how you been?
It's been a minute, but how you
It's
doing?
been a minute. It's good to see you.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a while. But yeah, I haven't been down there probably since this pick right here.
You're a New York guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you can see, one of the only New York picks.
Yes.
That store's about 10 minutes for me. Is that the only New York pick?
Is that in Long Island? Bantam, thank you.
Yeah.
Neat saying. I love that guy. That's the only one we did in Metro. We did a bunch up in. Yeah, we go. Yep, we did a bunch up in like Rochester area, a couple in the Buffalo area, but and a couple in Syracuse.
I have Jeff's pick here somewhere.
Yeah, we did a bunch of Jeff. Yeah,
Somewhere in here.
I have a couple of bottles.
yeah. Well, I love it. Thank you.
But for somebody who has no old line, what's your what do you think is the gateway drug? If you said and any bottles, if you want to do a gateway drug into old line, where would you go?
I'm gonna especially for this, for like a whiskey drinking crew, I'm gonna go back to the Navy Strength 114. I just think it's to me, it just highlights kind of what we're trying to do right down the fairway, right down the middle. So and it's high enough proof where it's going to get the attention of a whiskey drinker. I love the flagship 95. I think that, and it's certainly got enough oomph to be, I think, taken seriously by whiskey drinkers. But I think that for the most part, people in this room, this virtual room, I think would respond really great to the 114. We do have cask strength still, but that's part of a single barrel program now. So it used to be we'd have cask strength available all the time, and then it would also be available as a single barrel. For a number of reasons, we decided to make the high proof offering, the kind of everyday high proof offering, the Navy Strength, and now we have that cask strength as a single barrel. Whether it's a store pick or it's just something we picked and released. But yeah, I think the Navy Strength is probably the gateway drug, to use your term, which I think is a great term. And I think that not to over answer your question or jump, or stay on too long, but I love it because I just think that there's just, to kind of say it again, as I said earlier, there's just so many people who don't yet understand the American single malt whiskey category, and that makes sense. It's new, it's still forming, and there's such a wide range of flavors, right? So like it's like somebody asked earlier, I think maybe it was Joe, I think, and I don't think I ever got to it. He was like, "Hey man, how do you talk people into giving this stuff a try?" And one of the ways I talk about is American single malt whiskey, in my humble opinion, it does and will continue to have a range of flavors that is almost unmatchable by almost any other category. I think you can get it in rum. Rum has a tremendously wide range of flavors from like rum agricoles that are funky and sometimes dry, and to the Dominican rums that are sweet, all these things. And it's such a wonderful range of flavors. American single malt, because we can age in virgin oak or used oak. We can do whatever we want there. But probably more importantly, I think, is that malting, there's just so many flavors you can get from malting a grain. You can get so like our two, for example, we have we use about 90% a pale malt, which tastes, before we mash in, tastes like if you were to eat it like grape nut cereal, and then our crystal malt tastes like raisin bran flakes, and that's just the same grain processed two different ways. It's just so wild. So anyway, I'm getting off on a bit of a tangent, but
no, as whiskey nerds, Ben and I are right there with you. And to kind of piggyback off of that, going back to the Bourbon Baller, which BourBen knows Bourbon Baller, he asked.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he he said he's tried. So, what is your sales pitch to the uneducated consumer? So, what you just told us about the Navy Strength, you're talking to a bunch of whiskey nerds already who are trying your product for the first time as whiskey people already.
Yeah.
And so Lee is asking what you would recommend to somebody who's not already a whiskey person? What would
So-
you try to get them to try? And he thanks you for your service.
Oh, cheers. Well,
And
thank you. very
Lee, I
much.
appreciate you asking the question, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. And thank you for the kind words. And also, yeah, so one angle on this, and I've seen this work very, very well, is almost not say deception, but I'd say that putting this in front of somebody, if you have it in front of you, and being like, "Hey, tell me what you think of this." That is because what that does, I think, if you can, is that takes any preconceived notion out of it. People don't know what they're ready for. So because if they're thinking, "Hey, try this American Single Malt," I just think there's already the wheels are turning. It's just the way humans are built, right? We already have our brain is trying to get ahead of us. Right. So that's a wonderful thing, I think. And then people are just like, "Oh, what is this?" And they're like, "Would you believe that's an American Single Malt whiskey?" That's great. Now, but as far as doing it in a more, straightforward way, see, Ben's got the rum.
I don't have any. I don't know what you're talking about.
Is the one way I describe it sometimes is like, listen, like bourbon for very good reason. Bourbon is, has boundaries on what it can and can't be, right? And it makes all the sense in the world. Like the bourbon category is so special and developed, just like Scotch is, that the industry has guardrails on it.
Your left and right limit. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but that comes with some great things that you're really making sure the category stays within the boundaries of what the industry feels it should be. But there's also some limitation on that too. Not having those same limitations gives us a ability to explore new flavors. And a lot of bourbon drinkers are like so into trying every new bourbon that comes out. It's like, well, if you're looking to be adventurous, like this is the next frontier, right? This is something different. So another way that I will put it is, and this is, I'm not a DJ, but I just think of like a sound booth with all those like dials that go up and down. For Old Line's American Single Malt, I think if you were to, the dials are all the same as a bottle of bourbon. It's just they're delivered at different levels, right? As opposed to an Isle of Scotch, which is going to have, a whole different set of dials. We have the same dial baseline as many bourbons. It's just, again, we're just delivering those flavors at different levels. And I think that helps to, get people thinking like, okay, like I can get behind this. And once they've tasted it, I'm biased obviously, but I think most people are very kind of converted, I think, when they actually take the time to give it a go.
Absolutely. Sorry, BourBen, I thought your question kind of led into the
I led into a lot.
Really, I thought they led into each other really well, so I wanted to throw that in there. I put you on the wheel.
Can I jump in with one more quick?
Yeah, I just want to say that I know you have a lot of their products, so me sending you the flight of these three may or may not be in your wheelhouse. I don't know if I'll be able to talk Mark into sending you something different if you're the one that wins.
Well, hey, I am very easily manipulated, so I'll just put it that way.
Right, because I know if you look on their website, it's already in the video description.
Or you could just not worry about me, and me and Mark could do a stream another time.
Or that. Right? No, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, well, I was gonna say, what am I missing? And but you already named two bottles I don't have, which are your core offerings. I don't have the Navy Strength. I don't have the 95.
What?
Well, the far left there, you have the 95, right?
Where? This?
No, my is that not it?
No, this is the Sauternes cask.
Oh, okay. It looked like a white label to me. Yeah.
No. But I was gonna say, what barrel finish am I missing? And then the more important one, as a Navy guy, as my pops was a Navy guy also, when was the last time you were on a boat?
Like a Navy ship?
No, anything.
Oh, just a boat. Oh,
flotation device.
It'll have pontoons on it, but that'll be last fall. My in-laws have a lake house on Lake Anna in Central Virginia.
All right, I'm at ocean. Let's talk about real water.
Right, no, okay.
Ocean. Since the Navy, I mean, aside from like Little Jaunts in the Chesapeake Bay, which I know is an open ocean. Again, that'll probably be about last summer as well.
What am I missing here?
So let's see. I'm looking. You got the port.
the 8-year, the syndicate port, this is probably one of the most ridiculous bottles on my whole bar.
Yeah, I hear about that bottle so often. But people who are like that, that's like the 21090 guys. That's how they got into us. Was that particular bottle?
That's the 2020 syndicate port. I pour that very rarely because it is. I had that in the fountain when they first opened it, and I was down there, and that blew my mind. And
Really?
And then it was that was the bottle. I was like, holy shit,
dude! You're gonna have to send me a sample of that.
I can do that right now, Mark. That's not a problem. I got the rums. I got the port finished rum, the 51. But the only wine finishes I have are Sauternes and port, except for I think I have one of Jeff's picks from Rochester, but I don't.
Wait, you don't have a sherry? You don't have
Jeff did a sherry.
I think it was a sherry. It's here.
Yeah, Jeff did a sherry. Yeah.
Find it for this.
The one that's jumping out at me right now, one is the Madeira, which I think you'd really like that.
You sound like you love the Madeira. This is like the second or third time you brought it up tonight.
It is,
Madeira is amazing. I mean, here's a Madeira MGP pick I did. Madeira does great things with whiskey.
I agree. And
there's actually a bottle of Madeira like 5 or 10 minutes down the road, and I keep looking at them like, I'll get it one of these days.
Hey, yeah, and we'll have it on we have it on the site too, and that's we got a bunch more in the barrel now too.
Yeah, but it helps you if it sells here, doesn't it?
Hey, it always does. It always does. But the Madeira is one that jumps out of that lineup. That I mentioned the VDN, which is going to be that's real limited. That's only been done with barrel picks. What else?
The only other one I can think of is you mentioned PX, and I've never seen a PX finished.
So the PX we've only done once, and but we have more coming in. Our next shipment of barrels is going to have some PX in it. Awesome. So it'll be back.
So Madeira now, PX later. Got it.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, kick me off.
At BourBen, I'm kicking you off. Sean's been waiting for a minute. I love you, buddy.
Thanks,
I'll talk to you soon. Oh, dude. Me and BourBen go back like reclining chairs. Just like this guy, Sean from Whiskey Wars. Go back, dude.
Cheers,
what's
people.
up, man?
How we doing? Yeah.
Hey, Sean.
Thanks for hanging out. You were waiting in the backstage for a while. Appreciate
I
you.
was about to take a nap, but So Mark, unfortunately, I did this pick with 21090. Unfortunately, I don't believe you were there that day. I believe Arch was there that day. It's that
the day the pick happened. I forget where. I think I was traveling for work or whatever it was. But yeah, I wasn't actually there for that pick.
Yeah, but great pick. Obviously, I've almost killed the bottle. And then this rum was also available that day and also fantastic. Finished in their the single malt, which what a great finish. And then 21090 also did this pick as well. This I believe is finished in port cask.
Hey, now that you bring that up, ask your question, but I'm going to pour fresh crack of that. I've never tried this one before. This is their rum guns.
Okay, well, I will pour it with you, sir.
Because I wanted to do a fresh crack with Mark. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So doing it with you as well, Sean. Freaking love it. Let's get some.
And also, just what a great bottle and what a steal of a bottle. I think this is like 45 on the side. Yeah. So
yeah.
Man.
Oh yeah, great.
And
I haven't even tried it yet, and I'm like, yeah, it was a great deal.
I mean, and two, just gotta sell. Yeah, you promote Old Line. Everything I've ever got from them is a great deal. So anyway, to my question. Mark and Ben as well were both talking about the variety of things that you guys have done and the variety of finishes and all the different SKUs and things. But to you, Mark, of all the things you guys have done, what is your personal favorite of all the things you guys have done? Or maybe it may not even be something that is still around. Maybe it's just like a one-off. But either way, what's the one thing that you guys have done that you're really proud of that you want to see come back, or that you want to get out there again, or just get the word out?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a hard question to answer.
Great question.
Yeah.
I had that as one of my burn questions. Favorite product you've ever made?
So I'm going to answer this a couple different ways because as I'm incapable of not doing that. I apologize. As far as if I were to sit there and have, and I won't say the Navy strength again because that's just too easy of an answer. But something beside that, I just wanted that as far as flavor profile that I just I don't think I can get enough of. I'd say the Sauterne finish was one of those that just like I didn't expect to like it and I loved it. But I think what I think is a more interesting answer is I think you actually said like, hey, what you're most proud of. One of the things I'm most proud of is last year we did and we're going to do it again every year now, is we call it Harvest Moons. We set out to do a kind of practice blending. And it was still a single malt whiskey. It still met all the requirements. It wasn't a blended whiskey. It didn't have, as you guys know, like a blended scotch. There wasn't any like high proof grain in there. It was all single malts. But we had messed around with some blending in the past and kind of just did it, kind of kicked it around. Then we had some okay results. And last year, we're like, no, we're going to do this the right way. And we wanted to make a cigar blend. And we set out to do that. And then as the process was going through, it was a lot more difficult than I expected. And as it was going through, we started to find a direction. But it just didn't seem to us that this was going in like a cigar direction. It's just like, okay, we love it, but this is not at all what we envisioned a cigar blend being. And it had this really fall character. I'll tell you what it was here in a sec, but real kind of fall character. And we ended up calling it Harvest Moon for the fall feel to it. We actually emptied the barrels on the Harvest Moon, which is a little gimmicky, but whatever. We're not above that. And the reason it ended up being we learned a ton. One, we learned that at least at the time, we were trying to get way too complicated with the blending. We were trying to blend like 4 things. It was like we were trying to juggle with 4 balls instead of starting with like 2 or 3, right? Like we were just like, okay, there's just so many moving parts here that maybe someday we'll be able to dial these in a little better and be able to do this. But keep it simple, stupid was one thing we took away from that. And then we ended up doing a blend of 2 different things. One was Oloroso sherry, which is about like, I think 30-40% of it. The other, 60% was, and I'm going to get ready for the Rotten Tomatoes, was a very gentle Naranja, or not, I'm sorry, very gentle Amburana finish. And Amburana, and Amburana was something we were staying away from. Like, and it wasn't something that we were looking to do. And the reason we had that at all was that a woman that we know, a friend, did a barrel pick and asked us to insert these little pigtail Amburana spirals in it. And she's like, listen, whatever comes out, I'll buy it. This is no risk to you guys. I'm like, all right, sure, we'll do it, Kim. And we ended up, it was like 15 days in this barrel with these little pigtails, barely anything. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. So it was really just a little kiss of Amburana. And the end result was like cinnamon toast crunch, or actually I'd say more like apple pie. And it was just, what I love about that, I guess, is just that I love the process. Like, is that exactly what we're going to do every single year? No, it's going to be different every year, but I love what that product forced us to do, which was to engage in a blending process that was hard and challenging. And we ended up nowhere near where we thought we were going to start. And to me, that was just really cool.
That sounds awesome, man. I mean, first off, anything that tastes like apple pie as a whiskey sounds fantastic. So,
absolutely.
It was, we love it. It's, but again, whenever I say Amburana, I always kind of qualified, like, hey, this is just a kiss of it. It's not like that kind of, those can be very overwhelming.
For sure. Well, Mark, I won't stay on, but so 2 quick things. One, I want to completely agree with Will that we need a completely just peated, no other things, American single malt.
Not blending it with other stuff.
Yeah. So no other finishes, just peated. Okay. And then the only other thing is, I'll just leave you with this, and Mark can kick me off. Is what is a finish that you haven't done that you would love to do?
Ooh, solid ass question. Good.
So that's a really good question. Well, one that we are doing, this is that we are, and I'm going to embarrass myself by not remembering the name of the wood, is a Hungarian oak. Begins with the T.
Love that. Hungarian oak's great.
Yeah, I've actually never even tasted anything with Hungarian oak, so I'm thrilled for that. It's like Tokoji, or it sounds almost Japanese to me, but it's a Hungarian oak. We have 1 barrel of that coming in that I'm excited about. But what's a I think that's probably mostly what I'm looking forward to now. I will say one thing that I'm not necessarily jonesing for, but a lot of our whiskey club members are. So I'm kind of like now I'm intrigued. We actually haven't done really anything with an American red wine.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and around here, Maryland, Mid-Atlantic, Cab Franc is one of the grapes that does well around here. I mean, our wine country, I mean, in my opinion, like, Oregon, Washington State in general, like kind of really blows the Mid-Atlantic out of the water, but Cab Franc does well around here. And I am kind of curious to see how that would do on several levels.
Just real quick before Mark does kick me off, my favorite Balcone single malt is finished in a Hungarian oak. So just
really
okay,
really?
just throwing it out there.
All right. Well, hey, you guys you'll know what's coming.
Yeah.
All right, Sean.
Cheers,
before you
fellas.
go, I gotta raise a
Sean.
glass to this rum. I haven't tried it yet. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious what you think, man. Hopefully you like it. I mean,
Holy candy!
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's like one of those not the original Werthers, but one of those special Werthers, like the coffee Werthers or something. Hits you in the front of the palate, then in the back, you start getting some of the alcohol notes, and man, that is super sweet. Lots of candy. That's freaking good.
And believe it or not, there's zero back sweetening on that. There's zero, as many rums, agricoles don't do it, but many rums, most rums have a little bit of back sweetening, which our regular line, our non-finished line, we do a tiny bit of it. But our barrel finishes, it's molasses, water, yeast, oak, and that's it.
James Morgan says Takai.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
I was close.
you, James, from across the pond. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I mean,
dude, there's like there's more coffee than there is chocolate, but man, that is really candy-esque, but still easy to drink to where it's not too sweet to where I don't like it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the proof point is what's doing that.
I was just about to say the same thing, Mark. What I get on this is like a nice coffee note as well as dark fruits, which I love that combination, and it's fantastic. Anyway, cheers to you, fellas. Cheers to you, Mark. Cheers to you.
Thank you, Sean.
Both Marks. Yeah, cheers, fellas.
All right, Sean, I've got you on the wheel. I will. I'll see you soon. Maybe you'll want to hang out in the backstage if you're not going to bed. Let's B Bauer. What's up, Bill? Good to see you, buddy.
Good night, y'all. I mean, cheers, Sean.
Hey, Bill.
So I was gonna ask the question of like, and Sean kind of touched on it, but it was like any future batches or experimental finishes that you wanted to tease, but it kind of just got addressed, right?
A little bit. But if Mark, if you have anything to expand on that.
Yeah, well, Bill, to your point, I think I did, as far as what you're asking, I think, yes, I think most of the things I mentioned, like what the next harvesting is going to look like, how that peated is going to come along, and what we do with it. And, if I get punched in the face by Sean and I think it was Will, if I blend it with anything or not. But so this is not the question you're asking, but I think it kind of ties into the same, what you're getting, to where the core of the question is. I'm really interested to see what our age profile looks like as it hits into the double digits and beyond, and what that's going to look like. So
yeah,
right now, we're number 4 charred virgin oak. We're Mid-Atlantic climate, which is, very, very similar to the Kentucky climate. So that, like, in my opinion, that 4 to 8 years is just a beautiful sweet spot, right? And like for our flagship and our Navy strength, the base of everything we do, it's a blend of 4 to 8, right? So the 4s and 5s would be more, lighter, maybe lighter fresh stone fruit like peach, nectarine, blah blah blah, and then you get those develop into like dark, chocolate covered cherry, and the caramels and vanillas are stronger. So anyway, we love how all those flavors play together. What I don't know, and we won't know until we just let it happen, is what is a 10-year-old? But right now, our oldest barrels will be turning 9 in July. Is that right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 9 in July. And then, I don't know what the hell a 15-year is going to taste like. And I don't know if
Right.
the peak
Right.
is earlier than that, right? So it's exciting and a little scary to see like where that window is. And the window doesn't have to be one window. I think one thing that we've probably all encountered with whiskey is that, barrels can have multiple windows. You can have this like, hey, I've had actually individual barrels where I, monitor them as they go along and be like, oh, this is great. And then being like, oh shit, did we just go too long on that? And now it's just kind of something's flat about it. And then a year or two later, it's like, nope, this is just a whole new realm. So there is this kind of like, there's more than one window, I think, on most barrels. And I'm just really curious to see, generally speaking, what our age profile, where we find it to be optimized for certain things, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. So to ask an actual question, I guess. What took you from concept to barrel to bottle? And is there anything you wish you could go back and tweak or redo?
So for us, it was because we started by being able to learn from Bob and Jim, from the guys that owned the distillery first. We got to kind of stand on their shoulders. And one of the things that gave us, and this is kind of a double-edged sword, well, 99% great, 1% I'd say that I do wish could be a little different, is that when so unlike starting this thing from complete scratch where, okay, we're starting building the grain bill and the yeast and all these sorts of things, and we're not really going to know what the finished product tastes like for several years. We'll have an idea, we can monitor, right? But what Bob and Jim, one of the many things, the gifts that we got from that relationship is that we knew if we followed the process that they had developed, we knew if we didn't screw it up, basically what was going to come out of the barrel. So that gave us a lot of confidence to put as much whiskey in the barrel as we could and start to get ahead of, to try to get ready to meet demand. One of the things that I'd be curious to have seen if we had along the way, messed around with some different virgin cooperage. So, right now we do almost all number 4 char, which is, I love it, right? The number 4 char is more baking spice and spicy. Spicy for us will be more like a white pepper spice. Almost like a rye spice. Actually, a lot of people will say, like, oh, how much rye is in your mash bill? It's like, no, we're all malt. And then a little bit of a drier, gentle white pepper. Yeah, exactly. And
well said, Bill. Yeah,
I agree with you. And so I do wish we had a bunch of number 3 chars just to see what those look like at 8 and 9 years. And we've got a couple of scattered ones here and there. We've done nothing with toasted oak. And part of this is that, I know, no, right. And a part of this is that we, as a business, we're like, okay, we want to build this to where we can expand when the runway, if we're clear for takeoff on this, when the brand is growing to the point where, okay, we can really grow this thing. We want to have enough of that core profile to be able to meet that demand. And sometimes that comes at a cost of, not experimenting in certain directions, just because every barrel of our flagship we can get laid down is a win. So I hope I didn't tap dance too much on that one, but
no. Any crazy late night or hangover stories from Old Line?
Oh geez, well, my most recent hangover story is a little too recent for my liking. Was Sunday morning. A buddy of mine, I think I may have mentioned earlier, he rolled out his foundation, cancer foundation, and
yes,
a bunch of guys I didn't expect to see just kept walking in the room, and I was definitely. I woke up the next morning and I had a pulled calf muscle, no idea how. What's going on?
What did I do last night?
But get me over a beer and remind me to tell you if we ever sit in the same bar about Waikiki Beach, and I'll leave it there for now because that was my cousin who was living out in Hawaii was involved, and it was a whole fiasco. So I'll save that for when it's not being broadcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of not being broadcast, Bill, I'm going to kick you off into the backstage, but you don't have to leave because we're going to go to the back stream here in a little bit. I appreciate you jumping on and asking a question. I've got Bill on the wheel of names. It is we're a bit over an hour. on our time, and Chris from Down Under joining from Australia. He was in the background for a little bit, but he had to jump off and go get ready for work. So Chris, sorry we didn't get to your question, buddy. So I've got a bunch of great names that we're gonna pull up on the wheel of names to do the raffle. But just to do a real quick run through of the questions that I had that I didn't want to burn for the audience. You distill your own product, and so do you have a relationship with the farmer of the grains? And can you just quickly speak on where you get your grains from?
Sure. Yeah. So we distill in 2 locations. So here at Old Line, and then we work with MiddleWest Spirits in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh yeah.
And they're a big part of our store. We love those guys. And
they do Horse Soldier.
They do actually. I was watching one of your videos where I know you Horse Soldier was like your runner up, right, for Whiskey of the Year last year. Is that right?
Oh, I freaking love Horse Soldier. Yeah.
And they work with Horse. I think we actually might have been their first client. We met them back in when we were getting. So we moved the distillery from the West Coast to Baltimore, and there was about a 2-year kind of shit show of trying to get this place open. But we were already starting to bottle some of the products that we had purchased from Bob and Jim just to have cash coming in the door. We were doing that with MiddleWest because we met them via our friend Richard Wolf. And then all of a sudden, when we realized, like, holy smokes, like we thought we were always going to grow, produce as much as we could ourselves and eventually look to outsource. And we had to flip that on his head and do it. Actually, we started producing with MiddleWest before we even started producing in Baltimore. So that ended up being a blessing in disguise. We learned so much from those guys, but we've always done our grain, our yeast, our process with them. They were the only ones at the time that we could find that would let us do like our own product with them on their system. And
right. Instead of just like strictly sourcing, you're kind of contract distilling.
We're contract distilling our product, exactly, and they let us be, as involved as we want to be, which is right. So Ryan Lang up there is amazing.
I think that's a completely different category than just strictly sourcing.
I do too, yeah. And but as far as
that's whiskey nerd shit right there.
That's right. So we produce a bunch out there by volume. We do more out there, but by we distill in our 300-gallon pot still all the time. So anyway, the grain question though. So we have gotten grain from several sources, but we always come back to a place called Great Western Malt House right down there in Vancouver, Washington, by Portland, Oregon. And they've been at this since the 1800s. And that's who Bob and Jim, our forebears, they used. And we have yet to find a compelling reason to switch up. The grain they provide is always top notch, always to spec. The price is as good as anywhere else. We would, bless you. We would like to do and then they get their grain from mostly from Canada. I think is where most of the malting barley comes from in North America, just because it's a short season growing crop, so it does better at the higher latitudes. But we would like to look at some more locally, at least malted grain, if not even maybe grown.
So as of right now, you're still getting a lot of your grain from the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. It's just that relationship that we just kept it, and it's been a win for us. So yeah.
This was also one of my questions. Not only Gandy Road, love you, Ron. You're a good friend. Have you thought about doing any bourbons? You said earlier that you were originally looking to get into bourbon and rye, but you went the American Single Malt. And so my follow-up question to this is, do you have any American Single Malts finished in bourbon barrels?
So a couple of questions. So yes. So right now we don't have any in bourbon barrels, but that needs to change. That's something that we've been it's just so easy to do. And I don't know
it seems obvious, right?
Yeah, it's 100%. Yeah. So we should. We do have some rum actually in a Stagg Junior barrel from the Maryland Bourbon Society. They just
really. Okay.
They just got a Stagg barrel, and they basically asked us to fill with rum for them. So we said, "Yeah, sure, man." And, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I'm sure it'd be great. But so we have yet to distill our own bourbon. We do have a couple of barrels that we've gotten from just horse trading barrels of bourbon in house that we're not really sure exactly what we're going to do with them yet. And I'm talking a couple like literally right now too. Every year we say we should make some, and every year the reason we don't is that as much as we love bourbon, like, hey, we picked our swim lane, let's just stick with what we are, we hope we are establishing ourselves as one of the better or one of the best American single malts. Let's just keep our energy there. But I mean, man, we'll give in eventually because it's just such a great category of whiskey. We do make a tiny bit of rye. And that's and Ben had some of that behind him. And it's called 51 rye. It's a high malt rye whiskey. It's 51% rye, 49% malted barley. And not only is that cool because we're a malt whiskey company, so if we're going to do a rye in the state of Maryland, which is historically a rye state, but doing it on our own terms, high malt is great. It's equally cool because we actually got that idea from a brewery called Monument City Brewing, who's great friends of ours about 2 blocks away, and they have a 51 rye IPA. So basically, we're distilling their wash without the hops in it, and it's cool.
Oh, okay, dude, that's super cool.
It's not nearly as spicy. I love spicy rye. This one's got a little spice to it, but it's a very malty rye. It's very unique.
I like ryes, but I don't want them to be too spicy, and I do not like that dill or mint flavor. So when I first started getting really into bourbons, that's what turned me off on ryes, is that, like, don't put pepper on my chewing gum. Don't do it. And so there's a lot of bourbon lovers rye. Like, I've heard you talk about this Sagamore Double Oak. That is a great bourbon lovers rye.
I love that.
So talking about American single malts, I don't think I've had an American single malt finished in a toasted oak either. We were just talking about not having an American single oak finished in a bourbon barrel. I don't think I've had one finished in a toasted barrel either. And so, yeah, I started salivating. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get on to the wheel of names, get on to the giveaway, because I know it's late your time. I told you it'd only be an hour, and I'm going way past that.
Hey, I'm having a great time, so no complaints here.
I appreciate you saying that. There's dude, bourbon lover. Been from the north, still from Canada, reining in. I appreciate all you guys still being here. Before I bring up the wheel, one of my favorite questions I ask distillers when I bring them on Distillers Perspective. You're not going to put this on the website, and you're not going to put this on pretty much any other live stream. Tell me, what was your biggest mistake?
Oh shit! In life, are we talking?
No. In the distillery, as a distiller, where you were like, you tried it and it just did not work.
So I'll one is the one that comes to mind is I wasn't shocked that it didn't work, but we but it didn't, right? The reason I mentioned the 51 rye is actually a great segue. The reason that came about was that when COVID hit, our buddies at the brewery had all this, their flagship beer. They had a bunch that they were in the process of making that were like, no one knew what was going to happen. Like, oh man, this is going to go to waste. So they like, hey, do you guys want to just make sanitizer out of this? Like, yeah, sure, send it over. We'll do it.
Yeah, right.
So
that was a big thing during COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was already it was already had hops in it, right? So and hops, great in a beer, in my opinion, not good in a whiskey. But we're like, all right, let's just see. So we distilled some of that, and they also had some of their brown ale, which was very, very lightly hopped. And we just like, some of that distillate we did to the level of like just double distilled it, and then like, all right, we made the 51 rye was a rye whiskey. Let's just throw it in a little 5-gallon barrel. Let's just see what, after a few months and a year, which is roughly what this would taste like. And it was rough. But we knew it because the hops can become very offensive as you concentrate that they carry over.
Well, and that small of a barrel, a year is a long time in a small barrel.
Yeah, but it wasn't the oak. It wasn't what killed it though. And actually, that was a used 5-gallon barrel.
Oh, that's a different story.
But that helped. Yeah, but it was that. But it wasn't as much the oak. It was just the. It was the hops were just like it. It was just too much. It was almost like I was like pine sol, but it was. But the cool thing was that if you could look past
Nobody
that,
wants to drink pine sol.
no one wants to drink pine sol. So as you could look past that, though, we're like, okay, take that out of it. There's something here, and that's what we've developed into the 51 rye whiskey. The brown ale, actually, even though it had hops in it, they were much fewer than the IPA. Obviously, that actually made a pretty nice whiskey. But that's probably our biggest, like, yeah, we wouldn't want that getting out into anybody's bottle with our name on it.
Hold on. Gandy Road said, a great interview. Been a fan since 290. Introduced me.
Thank you.
Marvin from Whiskey Wine 111 said it wanted to come by. The camera's not working. Didn't always ask, how do you as a distillery plan for anticipated volume given this time is needed for your whiskey? That kind of reminds me of Independent Joe's question of navigating the road ahead, because the whiskey market is really up and down right now. And so that reminds me of that. But if you have anything you want to say on that before we get to the raffle, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'll say that we have to, spend so much time and effort trying to plan around that, and it's never right. It's just like, it's kind of like that, no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. Like no
right. Yeah, everybody has
a
a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Or
that's right. Yeah.
Every unit has a plan. There's always a plan until the first shot is fired.
Exactly.
I had a PL in Afghanistan, I think on my third deployment, that said stuff like that. He was like, everybody has a plan until the first shot is fired. You would say stuff like that.
And then the reality is exactly. So we kind of
you react. Right.
Yeah, we make a plan and we say, all right, this is the best plan we got. We'll go to it, and then inevitably it's wrong, and we have to figure out what to do from there. So one thing we try not to do is, because some of these plans that don't go the way you think end up offering great results by accident, right? So one thing we don't always try to do, sometimes we find great things and we're the first to say, like, this is a total accident. We actually screwed up here, but the end result was really cool. So we just try to roll with what we got and plan as best we can, and it's never right.
Oh my goodness. All right. So I'm going to bring up the wheel of names and get on to the raffle here. So we can bring on the winners. So right now we have a good set of winners. I have a flight of 3 different whiskeys, or not 3 different whiskeys. There's 2 whiskeys and 1 rum that I have from Old Line that I'm going to send to all right, so the first flight is going to Charred and Twisted. And the second no BourBen. All right, so now we talked about if BourBen wins, I'm going to talk to you about sending him something that's not a flight, because he has tons of your stuff.
Yeah, by all means. Yeah, let me know, and I'd love to do something like that.
Right, and so if you have some kind of a merch or something you can send him instead, that'd be great. I'll send another flight to the next winner, which is TroyMan. Right on. Awesome. So I will send him a flight as well, and we'll work out something with BourBen.
Yeah, I got some things in mind already that
awesome. Dude, I love it. Yeah. So like I said, it's way past your bedtime over there. I want to give you the floor for a minute to address the people that are still watching us live. There's one thing we also do here that nobody else on YouTube does. I'm going to go through and watch this video again and put in time marks in the video description so you can jump to the conversation based on the conversation that's going on at that time. So if you only want to watch about distribution or the finishes or whatever the case may be, I'm going to go and put links in it after the fact. And anybody that's coming back to it, I'm going to do that. But Mark, I'm going to give you the floor and give you a little bit of a closeout.
Well, I appreciate, first of all, thank you, Mark, for having me on here. Thank you, everybody. And seeing some familiar faces is always, I love this industry, right? It's, just the more I do this, the more I see familiar faces, and it's a great community to be part of. So thank you. I saw your Warriors and Whiskey shirt, by the way. One of the founding members, Milo Kasiak, I went to flight school with that guy. So I love seeing that shirt. Oh,
no way.
Yeah, great guy. But yeah, no, so just, thrilled to be here. Appreciate everybody taking the time to listen. I encourage people, American Single Malts going someplace, maybe, there's brands doing all sorts of different things. And I think keeping your eye on, obviously I'm biased old line, but there's so many other good producers out there. So, keep an eye on it. And I think you'll find a lot of whiskey that we really love. And it's just kind of the next frontier, I think, of American whiskey. So glad to be here. People can go to our website, and we can ship to 41 states via our website. So most likely we can ship to you. And but I just want to say thanks again, and I'll leave it there. I appreciate the warm welcome.
I appreciate you, and thanks for being here, Mark. I know it's late your time, and like Orlando said, I thought it was a great interview and product information. I don't know what else to say to all you guys that are still watching us live. If you want to join into some backstage shenanigans, we're going to let the backstage go a little bit, but we're going to cut off the live right now. Let's see. If any of you guys out there know of any other veteran-owned distilleries that you want to get on the show, let them know what we've got going on here, because we love promoting veteran-owned distilleries and veteran-owned whiskey brands, and getting their name out there in the spotlight. Mark, thanks for being here, man. And all you guys that are still watching, click that link to join in the backstage. And until next time, make sure you're drinking more water than whiskey and taking care of those around you, because you might be that person they need. Cheers.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, buddy.